Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share the results of our study. It's always a pleasure to be here and to feel so very welcome and feeling home. That's the truth. And again, we're going to talk about chapter 18. Oops. It's probably not a coincidence. The reading was chapter 18, and we're going to start the chapter 18 of the Gospel. And I love to see the picture of the group of study, everybody with their own Gospel in hand, prepared. Because, of course, Gospel is our most important tool to go through life, finding a better way to overcome our difficulties and to enjoy the life better, looking for things that we need to have inside to change our life to better. And we are invited, and it's so good to see a lot of accept the invitation. And we want to try to go each parable that we find in this chapter. This chapter has, do you have it? No, it's here. Okay. That's how you're going to find the chapter 18. You're going to study this deeply when you get there. I understand you just start the study of the Gospel. So when you get there, you're going to go deeply. So it's just a sample that you're going to find when you get there. So you're going to find the parable of the wedding banquet, the narrow door. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven. Much will be asked of him who receives much. And from the instruction of the spirits, we're going to find whoever has will be given more. And Christians are recognized by their works. That's everything you're going to find in this chapter. And you're going to see that one parable complements other and make us to understand clearly the message. So let's start with the parable of the wedding banquet. It was like a king decided to invite everybody to his son's wedding. And he prepared a wonderful party. He created a wonderful banquet. And he said to his servants, go invite those who already are prepared for the banquet. And the servants went out and they brought the invitation, and the people just didn't pay attention to that. Some went back to their business, another went back to the farm, and they just didn't care about the invitation. And even worse, some of them were killed. Some of the people who brought the invitation were killed. And it was a horrible moment. And the servant went back to the king and told him what happened. And the king was enraged. How it can happen? So he said to them, go back to the street and invite everyone you can find it, good or bad. Bring everybody to the wedding banquet. And that's what they did. They came back, they went back to the streets, picked up everyone they found, and brought to their wedding. So the room was full of people. And the king went down to see the guests. And then he saw a man sitting there, and he asked to him, friend, how did you get here without wedding clothes? The man was speechless. And then the king told to his servants, take him out, tie his hand and foot, and let him outside. And he finished with this phrase, tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are invited, but few are chosen. It sounds horrible, sounds crazy that somebody who wants to invite someone to a party, the people doesn't accept the invitation, kill the people who brings the invitation. The person who is invited for the party just throws someone outside because he was not right dressed. Sounds very, very strange. But if you think it's coming from Jesus, has to be a lesson inside of this. And in the end, the lesson will be about love, about charity. Always, we're going to find something like this in all the parables. Why he didn't say it's clear? Because it was necessary for them to understand based on what happened at the time. Brought to the people at the time the message they couldn't understand. If you bring this to our daily life, today let's imagine we are going to apply for a job. A company posts there a wonderful job. They're going to offer us the best benefits, a good salary. Everything we want come from a company. They're going to offer it. That's the job of our dreams. So they post this there, and for 2 months, nobody come. Nobody sent a resume. And then what happened? I don't believe there was not a qualified person in the market to apply for this job. So the company decided to open the application to anyone. In the beginning, the job description, they put has to have somebody qualified for this position. But since nobody came, we don't know why, but since nobody came, they decided to open the position to anyone, and they will train them. It's going to take more time, they're going to spend more money, but whoever will come will be trained for this position. And finally, a lot of invitation came, resume came. And they started doing the interviews. And come a man all wrinkled. Looks like he was just get out of the bed and went to the interview. Of course, nobody say anything bad to him, but we understand, we can be sure that these men were invited to come back another time. It sounds not real, but it's real. Years ago, we went to office government when they help people to find a job. Someone told us that you could find a grant to go back to school, so we went there. And it was like 9 o'clock in the morning, and we were waiting for somebody, and then came a couple to apply for a job. The man was in pajamas, and the woman was with rolling pins in her hair. And then I looked and I said, oh my gosh, this is on sabotage. How are you going to apply for a job dressing like this? So we see that even in the parable, sounds strange, it happens every day. But is Jesus talking about, talks about how we dress when he talks about the wedding clothes? What kind of attire we need to accept this invitation? More than our dress, our hair. If you saw me like your hair, I came with the right hair today because they put a picture of me with this hair. I said, I gotta go like this. But it's so important. Of course, we need to be clean, we need to have a good appearance. But that's the appearance that Jesus is talking to us, or is talking about our inside, what we have inside, what we have in our hearts. When we were invited to this wedding, to this banquet that we have here every week, it's because we are prepared for that. But sometimes we just get too distracted from what is happening outside, all the attractions. I love the initial prayer when Susanna says that Jesus help us to focus, because we need to focus sometime. We have so many lights outside blinking, getting our attention, and sometimes we forget to focus on what is necessary for us to grow, what we need to do to grow, to evolve, to become a better person, for our inner transformation. And the gospel is our tool, our most important tool to transform ourselves. Because Jesus brings to us the lessons softly. He doesn't throw the lesson at us. He speaks with love. So we're going to learn it little by little and accept the information without being forced to this. We get the conclusion that is the better for us. And Emmanuel explained to us in this wonderful book that we don't have yet in English, but many of these lessons that you find in this book, we can find in The Way, the Truth, and the Light that's already in English. And Emmanuel says to us, I'm sorry for that. We are convinced that we are still in the long distance from the contact with the ones in heaven in glory. However, the call of the living faith, which now brings us the superior knowledge, we are sure that we are already the chosen for the regeneration of ourselves, for the daily exercise of doing good, for forgetting all the faults of others in order to accurately recapitulate our own imperfection, redeeming them, to unconditional forgiveness in all circumstances of life, for the tireless activity in real fellowship to help the ones narrow, to teach more ignorant than ourselves. And it's very important to understand that anyone can be the chosen one. Because in the past we made the mistake to think in many lives before we are the chosen one, so you are the only one. No, everyone is invited. And when we find the way to go through the charity, we find the right path towards to God. So this is our real position today. We accept the choice to go, to do better, to change ourselves, to walk towards to God. And when you do that, when you start looking inside deeply and trying to take out all the baggages, the invitation says to us, using the right wedding dress. So let's take out all the baggages we have, like Marcelo said in the beginning. We have a big luggage full of selfishness, of rage, so many things that you have been carrying with us for so long, and you don't need this anymore, because now we have a better understanding. Now we know what the Spiritism brings us very clear. What we have in our mind will transform our life. So it's time for us to leave this baggage outside and let's go clean and light and take the narrow door. That's what Jesus said. Enter through the narrow door, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. And many enter through it, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only few find it. So Jesus is telling us again, so it's repeating the same message to convince us that the best thing to do is let's clean ourselves, let's do the transformation inside of ourselves and walk through the narrow door. This narrow door, that's the door we're gonna need to do the effort to get in, because that's when we're gonna leave behind our imperfections. We all are our frailties, our vulnerabilities, and sometimes it's hard to leave behind. So it's much easier to go through the wide door, because it's so wide that you don't need to worry about anything. You go with all our luggages. Just like when you go to Brazil. Have you seen Brazilian going back to Brazil? It's 1 million of luggages. But the airport has a space for that. But for us to evolve, you really need to have a small luggage. This small luggage can have only what really needs. Let's think about when you go to Europe, you cannot carry so many luggage, so you take with us just what is really necessary. So what is really necessary for us to evolve, for us to have a better life? That's our choice. That you're gonna look for and analyze and reflect. The Spiritism has a wonderful point. They don't say, the Spirits, they don't say us, do this, do that. They show us what has happened when you do the wrong choice, when you choose the wide gate. And they show us what happened when you choose the narrow gate. So it's our choice, always. And we are responsible for our own happiness, for our own path. And it's wonderful, bring to us back the responsibility for our own life. And it's a very good feeling. My happiness is not in somebody else's hand. It's only my hand. It's based on my decisions, based on the knowledge I have. The knowledge we have now gives us enough tools to choose right. Sometimes you're gonna fail, and you're gonna fail many times, but the most important thing, you get up very fast and try again, try again. That's how God treats us. He's merciful. So if you fail, okay, let's learn with this and try to do better. Because Jesus says that's the effort that is important. Like I said in the opening reading, the effort makes all the difference. God doesn't expect us to be perfect from one day to another. We need a lot of things to be correct. We have a lot of things to do, but the effort is what counts. And he says, make every effort to enter through the narrow door, because many, I'll tell you, will try to enter, you will not be able to do it. So the effort is the difference between one day to another. Maybe today I'm not able to go in a place that people look at me and I feel so uncomfortable, but tomorrow maybe I do the effort to see, to put myself in somebody else's place. And then that's the effort to see in the others what you want the others see on ourselves. So that's the effort in every little things we do in life. Try to do better. We do this in our jobs. If you want to be promoted, we're gonna work much harder. You're gonna do all the effort to show to our boss that you are able to complete this task. The same way in little things in our everyday life. And a good example of these lessons this chapter shows is the Otávio's downfall. It's in the book The Messengers. This we already have in English. And this book shows a week, André Luiz was in a whole week in the spiritual world, learning with the spirits, going to the lectures, going to the jobs, to learn and to bring to us these messages. And he has, just after a lecture with Telésforo, he was talking with Vicente, and then he saw two ladies talking, a mother and a sister talking, and he got curious. But not a bad curiosity that's just want to know somebody else's life. No, he wants to learn what is happening, to take something good from this. And then he asked Vicente to be introduced to Otávio. And he goes there. Vincent very quickly, no problem, let's go there. And he gets introduced to Otávio, and he says to Otávio, I just came back here, and I fell in my previous life. I'm supposed to do much more as a doctor. So now I'm learning. And Otávio looked at him, okay, but I think you are in better condition than me. Because you didn't know too much, so you fell, but you were ignorant. But in my case, my failure was much worse because I had a lot of knowledge. I was very well prepared to complete my mission, and I fell completely. And then we saw that he was very sad, and then he asked him to tell him his story. And he says he was in the spiritual world for 30 years, getting prepared to come back and do a big job in the area of console people and bring messages and teaching spiritual things and work his mediumship to do better to others, to help others. And imagine 30 years getting prepared. And the planning was very well done. He had a lot of good spirits, high spirits around him, preparing him to come back and do this big job. And when we imagine the job, when he described the job he's supposed to do here, we can imagine something like Divaldo Franco, Raul Teixeira. It's a job, big job. And
I don't know if everybody's familiar with these names.
Oh, I'm sorry. Divaldo Franco and Raul Teixeira are mediums that work that has a big job in Brazil. They not only work with the mediumship, bring us wonderful messages. We have a lot of books, and they also help. They have a big job in helping others. We have Mansão do Caminho, created by Divaldo Franco, that helps at around 5,000 children, and they help families, older, elderlies. And Raul Teixeira, the same way, has an organization there in Rio that helps a lot of kids. They give education, regular education, and spiritual education, and give food and shelter for a lot of people in need. So that's how I imagine Otávio would be his job. And then, before he comes, he was planning that when he comes, he will have 6 good spirits that will be around him to help him to keep in track. And with this help that he would give to the 6 spirits, he would be able to redeem a lot of bad things he did in previous lives. So everything was done in the best way possible for him to succeed. But when he reincarnates, of course, when we reincarnate, we forget what you're going to do. But it is inside of us. The instinct tells us what you need to do. The memories are going to come in little things, and you know the path to take. And he was born in a family that the mother was a spiritist. He grew up in this environment. But when he was around 15, he started feeling the mediumship comes, and he started getting very rebel. And the family told to put him in the center. He got a very good evangelical classes, but he was always criticizing everybody. He always saying that he was the best, the other one doesn't know what to do, and he kept growing up like this. When he was around 13, his mother passed away. He got very sad, depressed, and more rebel. And then when his father got married again, and when he was around 1920, his father passed away. And his stepmother asked him to help her with the kids. She brought 3 kids from the previous marriage, and he got 3 more kids from this marriage. And so she had 6 kids, who are the 6 spirits that helped him before he comes, and they were here with him to help him to keep the track. And he just ignored them. The stepmother goes to a leper hospital, and the kids need him. and he just ignored them, and he did letting them go. He didn't even know what happened to them, and he gets a young girl pregnant, and he has to get married, and he went far away from his original planning, because in his planning he's not supposed to get married, not because for us to work in spiritism or in any religion need to be single. No, in this case particularly, for him to be able to overcome a lot of things bad he did in this area, he's not supposed to get married. So he got married, and he got married to a lady, to a girl that was, like he says, the worst thing in his life, because her and her son, his son, were attached to a very bad spirit, and they obsessed him until he died. And he died at the age of 40 because of alcoholism, syphilis, in a very bad situation. So when he wakes up in the spiritual world and he realizes what he's supposed to do and he didn't do anything, that's what the suffering. That's what the last lesson says, that outside we will have weeping and gnashing teeth, because that's the suffering of realize that we were invited, you have a lot of things to do, we were prepared to do this, and you just ignore it. You just we let ourselves to be eluded by the lights, by the bright things that the life brings, the distractions of the life, and we forget what we're supposed to do. And the realization that we didn't do what we were planning to us give a very big suffering. And we can see described in many chapters of this book. So we recommend this book. It's very interesting, and it's real. So not all those who say, Lord, Lord, will enter into heaven, but only those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven. So you will see that he's repeating what you need to do. Doesn't matter, I cannot come here, dress myself to come and talk, read beautiful passages of the gospel, of the books, if I don't do anything, if I don't put this in practice. Which is not enough to know. It's very important to put this in practice, because when you put this in practice, we can see if you learned a lot or not. When you're working with people in need, we realize how much we have. We start to be much more grateful for what we have. So being contact the one is in need is necessary for us. We think we are doing good, but in the opposite, they are doing good to us. And we got an example from this father and daughter. It's a good example for who learned the lesson. They decide to celebrate their birthday doing good things. They add the age 32 plus 7, and they decide to do the 39 good things. Simple things and big things. They went to the police station and give them chocolates. They brought flowers to Amelie teacher. They went to organization that helps wild birds. Look, we never think about the birds, but they thought about the birds. So they donate money to this organization that protects wild birds. They gave money to the shelter of the city. They donate books to the library. So they did 39 good deeds. And it's supposed to be private, but in some way it went through the internet. They give an interview on the news. They were everywhere. Everybody was talking about them. But they learned the lesson right, because they said next year we're not going to do anything, like we're going to do the same thing, but nobody will know. Because they learned that the right hand doesn't know what the left. I never know if the right or left. But the important thing is, when you do something to someone, has to be in secret, because the most important of charity is that the other one doesn't feel that they are being helped. In the opposite, it's let them to think, or let them to know that in the end they are helping us. That's the real charity. And they learned that lesson. And so the next year they're going to do everything nobody will know. And it's a good example for us, because many times we are waiting for the ideal moment to do good. And the ideal moment, it's here right now. Because we can do anything. A beautiful smile, a sincere good morning, a moment that you dedicate to someone, to listen to them with care. Really listen, not just no. Feel what the other person is talking and be present in front of them. So we can do big things, we can do little things. And each one know what is good for yourself. There is, I always say this, there is a volunteer job to everyone. If you don't like to go to a nursing home, you can go to the park and clean the park and make the environment better. You can go to the hospital, orphanage. There is a job to everyone. You just need to focus what makes us happy and help somebody. And in the end of the chapter, our friendly spirits tell us, courage workers, take up your arrows and your plows, work with your hearts. Tear out the weeds, sow the good seed that the Lord has given, and dew of love will cause the fruits of charity to grow. So we are invited. We have wonderful tools. We are prepared for that. The only thing you need to know is make our baggage smaller, for make us light to walk freely towards to Jesus, towards to God. That's our message for today.
Thank you.